Have Ms. Vach comment on the video that we talked about before, and also how to get to our site that has a lot of railroad information. Ms. Vach?
Actually, because of the late hour, we are going to forego doing the video. It's about a 6-minute video, but we are going to put it on our website. The website address is www.covb.org, and we have all of our information under the high-speed railroad, and that's where you can find the video.
All right, thank you, Ms. Falk. All right, we're going to go into my matters, which is number 5, Chairman's Matters, for me to discuss our report being presented to City Council. I will be getting with Ms. Vach to pull together the work of this commission. I will present the report to the City Council at the next meeting on June 17, 2014. Time, 6 o'clock. It's an evening meeting. We're going to go right into the members' matters. Vice Chair, I'll let you kick it off.
Yeah, I fully object to what you're tending to do with our report. First of all, if you compile what you think we agree on and submit a report to City Council, then I will go to the City Council and provide my own report to them, as I'm sure Mr. Heddy will do.
Okay.
My feeling at this point is that in the commission at the last meeting asked each of us to submit our recommendations in writing to the commission about what we would like to see in a report. I did so. And one other of our members also did so. Penny Chandler submitted one, which we all have copies of.
Yes.
Basically, she took the recommended report that I submitted, and she made some editorial changes to it, and I think dramatically improved it. At this stage, I would like to read Penny Chandler's recommended report and put it up for a vote by the commission if this would be like what we as a commission would like to report to the City Council. If I may?
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Yes.
If you disagree, are you going to interject somewhere along the line and maybe we can incorporate or not incorporate?
Once I read this report, then this commission can make any changes to that they would like. They can take things out, add things in, but I am trying to get a report that goes to the City Council which has been voted on and vetted by the full commission. That's what I'm trying to get, not by a chairman walking in and making his own recommendations on what he's heard and what he thinks the rest of the commission, which is what I think Mr. Day just said he was going to do.
Hang on for a second. The report, and I was going to revisit your comments. In no way was I going to go to the City Council and present just Ken Daig's findings. It would be a combination of exactly what we were talking about today and what's on the record. Obviously, any commission member is more than welcome to come in. It's a public meeting to give their thoughts on the matter. And one of the things that I was going to go into after, I wanted everybody to have their say-so as far as going into the reports. That's how my report was going to be structured, and invite everybody to come to make their comments. So the vice chair is correct. He submitted his thoughts. Ms. Chandler did a very good job submitting her thoughts.
Right. Well, that's my point. I would like to see if there's something that has to be tweaked either way that we can incorporate it at this time and move on.
I think it would be easier for the City Council to understand and accept a report from a commission that was an official report voted on by the commission, rather than each individual member coming up and giving their opinions on what it would be.
Well, they can still give their thoughts, and your
minority reports
where you're going is the report as far as the consensus, and that was what I was going to build this when, I don't want to say but let's just say the report to the council. The council wants the report by the next council meeting, and we're not meeting again. Now, if you want to have all this put together here within the next few days, and we have another meeting before it goes to City Council, we can do that too. Now, they meet, on the 17th.
They meet on the 9th.
Now, the
17th? Okay, 17th. We fine. We can do it by the 17th. The 9th is when we were going to expire, right?
Right now, would you prefer before it goes to that meeting to meet again?
No. I tried to do this last meeting. At the last meeting of this commission, I tried to come up with a process which I thought we as a commission had agreed to, that the individual members would summarize their thoughts, send them out to everybody. Nobody comment on them, but send them out to everybody, and then come in here knowing what everybody was thinking so that we could then put together a report. I expected every member of the commission to draft a statement of what they thought should be in a report. I did that. Penny did that. Nobody else did that.
Don, you're right. You did it, and then Penny went in and commented on your report and sent that out. The problem with doing that is that you're getting perilously close to sunshine violation because she's okay. You shake your head. No, that's fine. You're getting perilously close to a sunshine violation because she is essentially responding to what you wrote, and I really appreciate what you did, and will certainly acknowledge that I was remiss in not getting it to Tammy in time. I called her and asked her what the deadline was, and without giving you a litany of things that happened in my life that prevented me from doing that, sorry. But I certainly have some thoughts, and I did review what you wrote, and I couldn't agree with you more that what Ken said at the onset, what he said he was going to do is to get together with Tammy and put a report together, and I couldn't agree with you more that that's absolutely the wrong thing to do. That if the city council, and that essentially kind of happened the last time, and it's why I insisted on giving the minority report. And I don't know that there's enough time left in today's meeting to really come up with a report, but I think that yours is a good start, and I think that if we discuss this now, we might be able to come up with at least a brief overview of where we are.
Yeah.
And thanks again, Don. I really do appreciate
Well, I don't think,
and
on the Sunshine Law, Penny did not respond to me. Penny responded to the total commission. She said, this is her take. And every commission member could have, submitted, rather than rewrite another one, she just used that as a model. And frankly, I fully support what Penny Chandler has recommended. And in fact, since no copies are available, it will take me a couple minutes to read it. Then we would all see exactly what we're talking about, and people here will understand the kind of report that we might want to consider. Okay?
Can I just add one thing? Mrs. Chandler sent the report to me, and I, in turn, sent it out to the commission members.
Right, Tammy, but that is, we'd have to get Peggy down here, but I think you're perilously close at that point to violating the Sunshine Law.
And I just wanted to clear that Mrs. Chandler did not send it out to the.
Well, she sent it out to you, and you sent it out to us. But
Correct.
it's a response to what Don wrote.
But there were no private conversations between Penny Chandler and myself. It was all separate public presentations to the group.
Okay.
Therefore, I don't think anything comes anywhere near that. But let's beside the point.
Right.
Let me read what Penny has submitted, and I assume that this is something she would support.
All right, but this is Penny's additions, deletions to your report.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically her recommendations to the commission, which I fully support. It's very similar to mine, obviously, but I think her wording is better. She's a better wordsmith than I am. Summary. The Vero Beach High-Speed Rail Commission has held 7 public meetings and provided an interim report to the City Council. We've received presentations from the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Board, the Indian River Regional Planning Agency, all aboard Florida, county commissioners, and concerned citizens. Most of the comments by concerned citizens questioned the feasibility of the project, the negative impact on local traffic flow, noise levels, property values, public safety issues, and potential costs to city taxpayers. Findings. 1, increased train traffic will cause an impact on vehicular traffic during a 16-hour period each day. This impact will occur when a passenger train passes through the city 32 times a day. Traffic will be stopped at each crossing for no more than 60 seconds for each passage. This will delay traffic for no more than 2 minutes each hour. 2, without quiet zones, the train will be sounding its horn continuously at over 90 decibels for the full passage through the city. At 60 miles per hour, each passage will take 3 minutes, and the noise will occur for 6 minutes each hour. At 110 miles per hour, each passage will take 1.5 minutes, and the noise will occur for 3 minutes each hour. 3, with quiet zones, the train noise will be localized to within a short distance from the track and will be heard during train passage. Train passage will be 10 seconds at 60 miles per hour and 5 seconds at 110 miles per hour. Train noise will occur between 10 and 20 seconds per hour. 4, the cost of quiet zones may be much less than originally estimated. Many of the quiet zone safety measures already exist for many of the city's crossings. As a result of the EIS, the FRA may make recommendations to All Aboard Florida requiring additional safety measures for those crossings not now having appropriate safety measures. 5, the increased speed and frequency of the trains will create numerous safety concerns, and these concerns will need to be addressed in the EIS. 6, the cost of implementation and ongoing maintenance of any additional safety measures recommended should be the responsibility of All Aboard Florida. That's implementation and ongoing maintenance. 7, one way to increase safety would be to limit the speed of the train as it passes through urban areas. 8, most if not all the impact on property values already exists because the railroad has been here for over 100 years. 9, the All Aboard Florida project will provide no direct benefits to the city or to Indian River County as a whole. The possibility of a train stopping in Vero is remote at best and has its own issues. 10, although All Aboard Florida contends that no taxpayers' dollars are being used for this project, it is the opinion of some members of this commission and the public that the $1.5 billion loan All Aboard Florida has applied for from the Federal Railroad Administration carries a 35-year payback and an interest rate below what is available from private financing, therefore having an impact on the public taxpayer. 11, it is recognized that the noise of the proposed trains and train hordes, as well as the impacts on local traffic and crossings, will carry across city limits, impacting local quality of life. Recommendations. The areas where the city can mitigate the negative impact of All Aboard Florida project are limited. The city can oppose the project and recommend it be reallocated to the 995 corridor. However, the likelihood of that happening is low, as FECI owns existing infrastructure on the proposed route. The city needs to prepare now to deal with the negative impact of the proposed train project. The High-Speed Train Commission makes the following recommendations. 1, the City of Vero Beach should prepare to establish quiet zones for each city crossing beginning at Aviation Boulevard and south through each crossing to and including 16th Street. 2, the city should support all safety measures recommended as a result of the EIS, which will qualify each crossing for a quiet zone. All these costs should be borne by the AAF-FECI. 3, the city should apply for funds to cover the quiet zone costs that may be available from a $10 million state appropriation. 4, the city should work toward reducing the speed of the trains within the city to a maximum of 60 miles an hour. This will improve safety and not increase significantly any traffic disruption. 5, the city should request that the Federal Railroad Administration ensure that any required safety measures will be maintained by AAF-FECI at AAF-FECI expense in perpetuity as a requirement for the loan. 6, the city should continue to work with the Indian River County Planning Agency, the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Agency, and all other local government entities along the route of AAF to develop a unified voice and consistent recommendations in response to the EIS. That's what Penny Chandler has submitted. I support it.
Mr. Daig, do you have anything that you'd like to tweak into that report? Add, addition?
A few more things, but I want to hear, since you're here.
I would like to comment that I disagree with one statement, and one statement alone, number 8, no impact on real estate taxes. I believe that there will be a much greater impact as the speed of the trains increase. Property values will go down in that area. So I disagree with number 8.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Howard.
I said most, if not all. I said most of the impact has already existed. In other words, property values have already been impacted by the fact that that's all it says. Now you can say there will be some. I would have no problem changing that. Say there will be some.
I would like to.
Do you have a wording change you'd like to put in?
I would like to make it that a strong possibility of change in property values for those properties adjacent to the railroad.
Say again, Frank.
Let me suggest some wording. There will be, in all likelihood, there will be some impact on property values.
Negative impact.
There will be some negative impact on property. Oh,
yes.
Okay, fine. In all probability, there will be some negative impact on property values. That's fine. I have no problem with that.
For those properties adjacent to or close to the railroad right away.
Yeah.
All right. Are you, Mr. Pezzacelli, anything else?
Well, before we leave that one,
Okay, keep going.
you know, whether it has an impact or not, I don't have a crystal ball, but the one gentleman talked about the consistent negative. There are areas, lots of them, where proximity to the train increases the value.
In what way?
Because they're close to the train.
But a train's not stopping.
Well, okay. You know, it's not stopping, but there are an ample number of people that that think that long term there will be a stop here.
Well, then we'll change the report.
Well, in that case,
That's fine. That's my comment on it. It is what it is.
But anyway, the wording I would suggest to replace 8 would be, in all probability, there will be some negative impact on property values in proximity to the tracks.
I would love that.
Okay.
And you're crossing out totally the statement that property values already exist. The railroad's been here for 100 years.
Well,
You're leaving that out totally?
I have no problem. All we're saying is that we are not stating that it's huge or big. We're just saying in all probability there will be some negative impact on property values.
That's fine, but the rest of the statement that you wrote, I think, is important. That the property values, the impact on property values, the tracks have been here for 100 years, and it seems to me that.
I have no problem if you put that first sentence in there and say.
Okay, why don't we say, most of the impact on property values already exists because the railroad has been here for 100 years. In all probability, there will be some negative impact on property values in proximity.
Although
Okay,
I'll
put an although in it.
That's fine with me.
Thank you.
Mr. Hardy, okay?
Sorry.
Yeah, the impact on property values already exists because the railroad's been here for 100 years. That's fine.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's fine. Don?
Yeah, that's fine.
You want to keep going?
Well, that's the only. I've read the whole thing. Anybody else
Okay.
have any comments on any other part of it?
Yeah, I do. Let's go to number 1.
Yep.
Could you repeat it? Because I don't have a copy in front of me.
The impact on property values already exists. Some of the impact, I'm going to say some, of the impact on property values already exists because the railroad has been here for over 100 years. Although, in all probability, there will be some negative impact on property values in proximity to the tracks.
I like that.
Okay?
I'm okay with that.
Okay? You okay with that, Fred? Okay.
Let's go to number 1.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about the increased train traffic.
Mm-hmm.
We've had, and I know you folks have heard it from some people that have come in. I've heard it here and also out in the general public area. I'd like to put something in there concerning access to the hospital. That is a concern. People want to know how they're going to get to the hospital. It needs to be addressed.
Okay, could you repeat it so I get the whole picture?
The sentence said, increased train traffic will cause an impact on vehicular traffic during a 16-hour period each day. This impact will occur when a passenger train passes through the city 32 times a day. Traffic will be stopped at each crossing for no more than 60 seconds for each passage. This will delay traffic for no more than 2 minutes each hour.
And I think you might want to say the residents have shown some concern in terms of emergency vehicles.
All right, we can add a sentence.
Along those lines.
Yeah.
This may or may not have a negative impact on emergency vehicles.
Yes. Something along those lines.
This may have an impact on access of emergency vehicles.
This may, and that's a good way to put it. This may, and that's something that the EIS study can look at, and that satisfies the concerns that the public want to have input into this.
Well, that's getting back to my question earlier. That's why I kept mentioning the EMT, because of that concern about getting to the hospital.
And since we're talking about it says increased train traffic. We've heard from a number of concerned individuals. They are concerned with the increased freight traffic. So we're talking about here just the 32 trains, the high-speed trains per day that are coming through Vero. There's also going to be the freight trains, too, because don't forget they're adding a second track.
Well, you could say the same concerns exist for the increase in freight traffic.
Well, it's more of a concern for freight trains because a freight train, if they increase the length of the freight trains, then you're talking about a 3 or 4 minute or 5 minute maybe delay at any time they go past. So this may be, we could put, I would say this, there will be a bigger impact if there's an increase in freight traffic. Because the freight traffic is all speculation.
Yeah.
I've heard both sides of this argument on freight traffic. One is that right now 75% of the trains going north are empty. Mm-hmm. And that there would have to be a very significant increase in freight that would ever increase the number of trains significantly.
How about this, Don? Increased freight train traffic could negatively impact emergency services.
I like that.
To a greater extent.
And that way it addresses some of the concerns that the vice chair has.
Right.
We've heard both sides of the story.
Right.
No one can say for sure you're going to have decreased freight or increased freight.
Right.
If it depends
it's
on
unclear.
who you're talking to.
Well, you could say the possibility of increased
and
freight
I like
traffic.
that.
And this is the High Speed Rail Commission, right?
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't know we should be talking, I frankly don't believe we should be making a comment on freight because that's a total hypothetical. It's not part of the issue here.
Okay.
But it is affecting what's going on in Vero on the tracks. You're going to have a second track put in. These are things that have come to our ears. People do have concerns, and they wanted us to at least give our comments on it.
Well, then you could use the transitional phrase, furthermore.
Well, you can say
certain citizens
if in the
have.
future,
Good.
Right.
If,
So we can, all right, that suits me fine, furthermore.
No problem.
And if you're going to add into a finding that traffic will be stopped at crossings for no more than 60 seconds, I don't remember that being what I heard.
Oh, yeah, I heard it 3 to 4 times.
In
fact, I went out and measured it, by the way.
But the traffic is going to be stopped from the time that the arms go down to the times that the arms are fully back up.
Okay.
And if that's 60 seconds, okay, then I stand corrected. I just question that.
All right, here's what I did, Brian. I went to a crossing, waited for a freight to come through. Right, I counted the time when the lights went on and the bar started down.
Okay.
To when the train arrived.
Okay.
Okay, that was less than 35 seconds.
Okay.
And then I counted the time after the train passed when the arm went up. 7 seconds.
Okay.
The train passage is going to be no more than 10 seconds. So if you take the 35 seconds to 10 seconds and that you're basically under a minute. I went and I met with All Aboard Florida and I asked them and they said it'd be under a minute.
Okay.
So I'm very comfortable with that number.
That's fine.
I think Mr. Roberts would like. Are you okay? Or you want to come up? I don't want to.
No, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to belabor everything. Don said it correctly. I would be comfortable with a 60-second figure. It's probably a maximum. We've done some modeling, and one I saw is 48.7 seconds. Obviously, every intersection is different, so that's probably a good bellwether.
And for the record, just identify yourself, who you are, and who you're with.
Rusty Roberts, Florida East Coast Industries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Don.
I'm just making a change on the other stuff. I would say furthermore, if freight traffic should increase in the future, this the impact on vehicular traffic will be negative. Will be a negative impact on vehicular traffic. Further negative impact.
Will be further impacted.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I like the word negative in there. It gives again for down
I
the road.
think Frank is right. Further impacted.
They will cause a negative impact. Right?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Hetty, you okay so far? You done?
I've read it. I mean, I'm just making changes that you guys are suggesting. If I left something out, that's why all this was something that I just thought would, based on what I've heard and based on and what I've heard from the public and what I've done in talking to people, this would be the sensible thing for us to recommend to the city council. That's all I make any changes that the commission wants is fine with me.
Well,
my objective is to get a report that we as a commission are recommending.
Yes.
Okay.
Then that's my objective also.
I know.
Yeah. Okay. We're all okay.
Can I comment on one more part of it? Apologize, Mr. Chairman. Can I comment on one more part? There was a section on. Could you go back to the section you read on? Was there a section on the loan and interest rates?
Yep. Not interest rates. No. What I said was that it is the opinion of some members of this commission and the public that the $1.5 billion loan on All Aboard Florida has applied for from the federal government carries a 35-year payback and an interest rate below what is available from private financing, therefore having an impact on the public, possibly have an impact on the public taxpayer.
So the last phrase, possibly having impact. So the loan is based, just for education purposes, based on the interest rate is based on the Treasury bill rate the day the loan is closed.
I understand, but that's not something you can get from private financing.
No, correct, but it doesn't have impact on taxpayers if it is revenue neutral to the taxpayer.
Or if it's paid back.
It's just it's a good interest rate for the borrower.
Right.
Well, of course, it won't. It'll be paid back.
Could you explain that one more time?
The RIF loan is based. The interest rate is based on the Treasury bill rate because what they do is they sell notes to fund the loan, and so whatever that interest rate that day, the day we close the loan is interest rate that will be in the loan document that the company repays with.
But why can't we say that?
Well, we could say that, but that's what that is. Then it's
negative. The phrase "negative impact of the taxpayer" maybe that could be amended to I don't know, but I don't see it as negative when it is paid back at an interest rate that is not being subsidized by anybody.
Good point.
Yeah, that's fine.
The local taxpayer.
It doesn't have any impact on a local taxpayer.
That's what I'm saying.
Doesn't have any impact on it.
But I think you may want to put the word T-bill in there.
I would, frankly, that's an added thing that Penny had put in. I didn't have that in there. I just said that all I was saying is that the comments, that the opinion of some members of the commission, the public, that the loan All Aboard Florida has applied for from the Federal Railroad Administration carries a 35-year payback and interest rate below what is available from private financing.
And that term has been negotiated already, 35 years?
I believe so, Mr. Teddy.
That's a standard for a RIF loan.
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
The RIF was set up by the federal government to allow for infrastructure financing of railroads.
For passenger or
freight? For passenger or rail, yeah, or freight. It applies to both passenger and freight. So if we just took the words "therefore having an impact on the public taxpayer rate," you'd be fine with it.
You want the word T-bill in there?
If you do, but that's that last prepositional phrase that I was.
I understand.
Yeah, that wasn't my phrase. I added it because Penny suggested. If the rest of the commission doesn't feel it's necessary, that's fine with me. What do you think? I know this is one of your issues, Brian.
Well, you're putting things in there that it seems to me haven't been cast in concrete yet. I just asked the Florida Railroad, All Aboard Florida, is that the term 35 years? And I believe so. From you, I got, well, standard RIF loans are up to, if it's a 35-year loan, it's one thing. If it's a 10-year loan, that's fine. But it just surprised me to see that we had some terms in here about a loan that I didn't know those terms were finalized.
But that is in the code. The 35 years in the code.
It's a maximum.
It's an accurate statement, and our loan will reflect that maximum term that is allowed.
So then the answer from you is then you are.
I think what's stated in the document is accurate.
Everything that I've
read. If it is a 35-year term, then
you're still seeking it?
That's fine.
Are you seeking it, or is it a signed deal?
Oh no, we're still under.
Okay, so we should use the word AAF is seeking a 35-year loan based upon
has applied for. It says has applied for.
Okay.
Yeah. And the issue here is we're also saying that we want to we would like to put some conditions on that loan. But the recommendation says we want to put some conditions on that loan. That we would in the EIS we would say if they're going to require some safety upgrades. And then we're going to be required to maintain those safety upgrades. That doesn't make any sense. So that's why we want to make sure in EIS, we say if there's any safety upgrades that are required for this by the Federal Railroad Administration, that the maintenance of those upgrades will be the responsibility of all aboard Florida. We don't want to increase our city costs to maintain safety measures.
Yeah, and those are the kind of recommendations that I was looking for from this panel to the city council.
It's in there.
Without okay.
Right? I mean, it's fine. It's in there, but if you want to reword it, that's fine. Good.
We have a
public comment on this.
If you guys don't mind.
Thank you for allowing me to come here. First place, there's no such thing as a win-win situation. Anytime you extend a courtesy to somebody else is going to lose out. So this is business about this being not detrimental to the general public is nonsense. I would like to know now. You mentioned what is your name, sir?
Don.
Don.
Close enough.
Thank you. I didn't know anything about the bond until you mentioned that the 35.
It's not a bond. It's not a bond. It's just a loan.
The loan.
Bond is different.
Okay. To whom since you have details of this loan, to whom is it being extended?
I understand it's being extended to All Aboard Florida and FECI as a combined organization.
Well, the gentleman from the All Aboard Florida and the FECI is here. Would you ask him to come up and explain to you exactly who is the loan? I'd like to get it on the record, to whom it's being extended. Thank you for allowing me to approach.
Yeah, no problem. Good.
Mr. Roberts, do you mind?
Am I accurate in that?
You are accurate in that. We've explained the loan many, many times before this body. I think everyone's very clear on the process. And
let's make it clear now. Who's the loan to?
the loan is to All Aboard Florida and Florida East Coast Industries.
Both
own the company. Florida East Coast Industries owns the company to All Aboard Florida. All Aboard Florida owns the assets that is putting up the collateral. Okay.
It's fine. It's on public record now. It answers the citizen's question.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Specifically, what assets does All Aboard Florida have that is the FEC putting up collateral?
And I know that's been answered, but Mr. Roberts, if you would again, please.
I never heard it.
Okay.
The collateral is our land holdings in Miami, in Fort Lauderdale, and in West Palm Beach. It's our rolling stock that we've purchased. It's our corridor and easement rights on the corridor.
Thank you.
Sir, I'm not going to stand here and debate the members of the public on something that's been
That's
debated for many months.
Rusty, does that asset value exceed $1.5 billion?
The independent financial analyst that is reviewing the loan documents makes that decision. We of course
you believe it does.
We of course think it does.
Yes, okay.
We believe it does.
Do you have,
the final decision is on the independent third-party analyst that does that.
Do you have a ballpark number of what those assets are worth?
No, sir.
The underwriters will determine
The
that.
underwriters determine that.
Well, the underwriters will determine what they think it's worth. I was just asking you, from your company, what do you think the assets are worth?
I'm sure our chief financial officer knows, Mr. Hetty.
Right, but
Thank
you're not prepared
you,
to give us an answer.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not debating anybody here. I'm just trying to get some information, some facts out. Now, whether they were released before this is news to me. Fortunately for me, I'm not condemned, at least not in this life, to spend all my time in Indian River County. So I wasn't here for the last meeting. I'd like to know what specifically then, if the gentleman from the FEC would come up, and what specifically does the FEC put up as collateral? What collateral are they putting up? Not All Aboard Florida, but just the FEC. Thank you.
Speak to the gentleman offline.
Thank you. I think it's been stated very clearly. I think it's been stated very clearly that the assets are property that's owned by the entity applying for the loan, which is property downtown Miami, and they've stated that.
I would like to hear it that specifically what property that's owned by FEC is being put up as collateral. Not anything that All Aboard Florida is going to buy, the choo-choo trains and all that kind of stuff. I'm saying, what collateral is FEC putting up? That's what I'd like to know. And that's a simple question. And I think it's a fair question. I'm not engaged in some kind of a debate here. I think that's a real question, and it should be answered. And I don't care to talk to this gentleman off the record.
Okay,
Thank you.
That's fine.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's move
Could
along.
he possibly say that at this point, this commission does not know the value of any collateral?
I don't think it's, frankly, it's not our business to determine whether or not a loan has sufficient collateral. It's been stated that by the people applying for the loan, they're going to provide sufficient collateral in their judgment that would apply. The RIF loan will not be made unless there's sufficient collateral to do it. So it's not, but it's not our judgment.
That's
and
okay.
if that we can make, I don't think that's a legitimate argument for us to be pursuing personally.
If you
I would agree that it's not that it's probably not something that we should engage in terms of analyzing the loan. But I think that as a commission, what we could say is that we recommend that City Council endorses a fully collateralized loan.
What I wanted was to give the city council the knowledge that we don't know, and maybe they want to find out. That's all I'm saying.
I don't want to put the city council in a position of recommending a loan.
I'm not.
Well, that's what Brian.
What I'm saying is they may want to investigate on their own because we don't know the answers. Maybe they want to ask the questions, what is the collateralization worth? And somehow we should say that, in my opinion.
I don't think that is something that is relevant for the city to be looking at, or us, personally.
Well, let's throw this out on the table. We've had many concerns from the general public on that very issue, and they wanted this commission to at least address that and have it looked into. So we can maybe frame the question to make a recommendation for the city council to look into the process. We're not saying yay or nay, but we've heard from the general public, we've heard at every meeting, they're concerned. They feel it's their tax dollars, and it's the job of this commission to get that, in writing to the council. Then the council, they will decide what they want to look at. These recommendations will go to them, and they can, maybe not follow them, but look at all of them, and then they can cherry pick.
How about we do something like this? That we have the city, as part of the response to EIS, say that the loan should not be granted by the Federal Railroad Administration unless it's fully collateralized.
That's what I said.
Yeah, and we could add that. I have no problem adding that.
Okay. Pezzacelli? All right, we're in agreement.
And we put that as a recommendation? I'll put it down as recommendation number 7.
Yes.
Okay.
And while we are on the issue of dollars here a little bit, a number of meetings ago, we all heard about the crossings concerning quiet zones. And if city councils elect to go with quiet zones, and that's going to be up to them as an elected body, if they say yes, we assume the extra liability. In other meetings that I attended, other cities and counties are wanting the All Aboard Florida company to pick up the extra liability. So I think we should somehow put that in there. If there is increased liability, which there probably will be from everything that I read, that a recommendation that All Aboard Florida should pick it up, or someone in their company.
I would suggest then we add 2 things. One, we add a finding.
Finding? Okay.
Finding 12, that the public is concerned that this may increase city liability by the public's liability.
How about if we said this commission is concerned?
Well, the public and this commission, okay. All right, I agree, as I think that's a legitimate concern. Is our concern. Yeah, liability. I just put that in there. And then a finding, number 8, that the city of Vero Beach in the EIS response ask that FRA loan handles deals with any increase includes increases in liability costs.
Did you read the whole thing?
Don, just a point.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the city council authorized this commission opens the door for the city to be liable if there's a problem, because the city had a commission that studied the issue, and the legal argument is that we should have known about A, B, and C, and that it was going to happen. Just the fact that we're sitting here right now discussing this puts the city in a position where of potential liability. It's just the reality of courts. It's the reality of shotgun litigation.
It's the reality of living in this country.
Right, exactly.
My understanding is the city is primarily self-insure primarily.
So we have.
You have a blanket umbrella kind of. Yeah. What do we have in insurance? And do you see this as what does that cover?
We have general liability, plus we have other lines as well. But we also have, by state law, limit of exposure of liability as well. But now that could be overridden. For example, if they found the city negligent for $4 million, and let's say our coverage by state law is $250,000, I believe that's what the number is. Mm-hmm. The damage people can appeal to the state legislature and get it approved for a higher number if that's.
Okay, but right now, if there's an accident on the crossing, that is, these are crossing gates that are maintained by All Aboard Florida, not us, or by FEC, not by the city.
No, those crossing gates are installed at the bequest of the city.
If they fail, if for some reason a train is coming through and a crossing gate doesn't go down and a car goes on and gets hit by a train, are we liable?
In theory, no. Now, I'm not shaking my head, yes. In theory, you could sue and we could be partial of being in that litigation.
Because you requested the gates.
Yeah, anytime there is a crossing, it is a city. The exception, of course, is State Highway 60.
Okay, but right now our liability insurance does cover any of those.
Yes, sir. We have general liability that covers any type of accidents or on our streets, roads, and right-of-ways.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
I happen to believe that our attorney should work on the wording here.
Well, I agree. I'm just saying I'm trying to figure out whether or not if there would be any increased cost to our liability insurance if this goes through, and that's something we wouldn't know until we talk to our insurance agent. I
don't think anybody can determine what that would be until you know what the exposure is.
Right.
And just saying there's 32 trains going at 110 miles an hour, there's not an insurance company in the world that's going to tell you, oh, we'll quote you.
Well, what I'm saying is if we put in wording that as part of the EIS that the part of the loan should be that any increase in liability insurance costs incurred by the city would be responsibility. The increase in liability costs that we may have to incur because of insurance companies, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a very good blanket statement to say that it should be.
Because as we're rolling this stuff on out, once the City Council takes a look at the recommendations, they're going to have the experts, number one, whatever they recommend, it's going to be looked at, and we call it pass the legal test. And it will go through.
All we're saying is, if there is, then we should raise it as an issue that we would be concerned about. Apparently, because we're not getting, we're looking at it as this is a benefit to the railroad to be able to go through here at high speed with the increase, and if they're going to be required to do additional things, and it's going to increase our liability, then we should be held harmless as much as possible.
And the finding of this commission then should be pretty simple. That we have concerns about the increased liability.
Right.
Without trying to define it or
Well, we also want to say we should take steps to see that doesn't, if we can mitigate that, so we don't have to pay the cost of insuring against that liability. Because that's what you do with liabilities, you just insure against them.
Right. And the other thing, too, this commission was charged with, as we're putting our thoughts together, obviously everybody has their opinion on the matter, but most of what we've been doing today, even with these recommendations, if you go back what we have on our website, we're in keeping with everything that we've done up to this point with our meetings. We have a tremendous amount of information as far as writings. We've gotten a lot of information from the All Aboard Florida folks. There's news articles on there. There's materials on there from the Treasure Coast Planning Council, and the list is endless. So thus, right up to this point, everything that we're talking about, you can go on this site and go right there and find out. We're not giving our so-called just our opinion and our thoughts. We're trying to structure this with what we heard from the community to send it to City Council with these recommendations. Okay, City Council, here's the recommendations. This is what we heard from the general public. That's why this commission was formed, was to hear from the folks. They also gave us a charge, go out into the communities, and find out what's going on. I've been all over the place at different meetings, listening to other presentations, listening to other citizens' input, and they all have similar concerns that we've heard up here at the mic. And they've had also people that are in favor of the train for their reasons. And the idea of having public input is to hear from everybody.
Right.
I would like to possibly add that we urge the City Council to make contact with other cities.
We did that.
Is that in there?
Yeah, it says the city should continue to work with the Indian River County Planning Agency, the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Agencies, all other local government entities along the route to develop a unified voice and consistent recommendations.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, with I don't want to interrupt you.
These are my. I'm not making changes.
You're doing very good. I'm going to keep you around. Let's go back up to number 12, and because with the statements that I made before.
Where's number 12?
Number 12 is the new one we're adding. We added. If you may go back a couple of sentences.
It says recommendations. There's number 11. I like to put like 12 that a lot of the information or a whole bunch of information is on our site and put that in there.
Oh, we already put a 12 in there that the public is concerned about liability.
No. I don't mean liability. I'm just talking about
information.
information.
Now we have to add a 13. That's what I'm saying. I've already added a 12.
Oh, you already got a 12. I'm sorry. All right. Anyway, on the number 13, so when people go back and take a look at this, especially the folks that are going to be taking a look when this is piled into the EIS study, it goes back to the feds, they'll have a reference point where they can go see all of our materials, the DVDs, the meetings.
I would put that in the summary. What we have is here. The first paragraph says, most of the comments by concerned citizens question the feasibility of the project and negative impact on local traffic flow, noise levels, property values, public safety issues, and potential cost to city taxpayers. All of the information is available. All of this information. That's where we put that.
I like that.
Okay.
In that sentence, the first words, most of the comments by concerned citizens, I would recommend that you change that sentence and you say comments by concerned citizens.
Okay. That's right. Good. That's fine. Take out the most stuff. That's fine.
Right. Comments by concerned citizens, and that's what the comments include.
You say all of this information is available on the city website under the High Speed Train Commission. Right?
Because this, the way this is being structured, I think that what it does is it highlights the negatives that have been brought out here, and there have been negatives, but if you look at what's presented so far without the changes, if you look at what's presented, the walkaway is that there's nothing positive about this at all, and I don't think that's true. I think that there are some positives.
I agree. Take out the most of the comment. Just say comments. That's all.
That's fine. Comments.
Just comments.
The comments.
No, just comments. Comments by concerns in the question, the feasibility of the project, the negative impact on the local government.
Good. Mr. Pezzicelli, you okay with that? Okay.
Fine.
We strike that.
Okay.
All right.
It's in there. So, any other additions, deletions?
Yeah, start right at the top. You've taken care of the most in the summary. I think that that we, whatever number of meetings we had, we did. We didn't provide an interim. We provided 2 interim reports. The word "most" is crossed out. Coming down to
the commission only submitted 1 interim report.
Correct.
We only voted on 1. Our chairman may have made other reports, but it wasn't a report of the commission.
That's fine. I think that we submitted 2 reports, but that's fine. You want to put "and" 1? That's fine.
Actually, okay, to go back to the mayor, chairman submitted a report. Just for the record, the commission was getting ready to sunset. So what was needed to be done is they wanted a what do you guys been up to type thing. So that report, or that, I don't know if you want to call it a report, or the finding up to that point, I pulled it together of what we've been discussing as a commission and presented that to the council. Now,
you can add that.
I don't know if you want to just call it a finding, not a report, a finding.
Well, we only made 1 report as a commission.
Correct.
You can make, you made reports, that's fine. And I have no objection to that. It's just that the only one we made officially as a commission was the one we voted on.
Well, I think that the record shows that what we did was that the commission voted to send Ken Daig with a report, and I objected to some of the things and asked that I give the minority report, and that received approval. Fine, give them the minority report. So that's 2 reports.
That's the second report.
You want to?
That's not a report of the commission. No, certainly that is part of the report being delivered.
There you go. Part of the report.
That was your minority report was part of the report.
That's fine.
So it's still 1 report. Dan.
The 60 seconds was taken care of. Down to number 2, got a red question mark. What's that mean? Number 2, without quiet zones.
That's 3. Oh, you're right, 2. You're right.
So got 2 next to mine.
Yep. No, you're right. You're right. You're right.
Without quiet zones, and then they talk about the negative. I think quiet zones are problematic for lots of reasons, but I just throw that out there as a comment. Number 3, it says with the quiet zones, the noise will be localized. I'm not sure that that's accurate at all. At 100 and some odd miles an hour, if the city were to implement quiet zones, you'd still have the train making a lot of noise down, where's the city begin? After Kmart, after 12th Street, before 16th Street. You got a whole lot of noise coming at you. If they stopped when they entered the city, if they stopped the horn, I can tell you that hasn't changed the noise that is going to be heard right here at City Hall. So I'm not sure that it's really localized in a short distance with quiet zones, because you would need a quiet zone to extend further than the city limits in order for that to be true.
Could you read the whole thing so I can?
Yeah, it basically says without quiet zones, the train.
I was working on 3.
Yeah, with quiet zones, the train noise will be localized to within a short. With quiet zones, within and I think that Brian is right. If you don't have a quiet zone below 17th Street, you're going to be sounding the horn a half a mile before you get to 16th Street going south. That is the one intersection. It won't affect going north or south, because Aviation Boulevard is well more than a half a mile from the next crossing north. So it will impact that particular crossing. There will be horn sounding unless the Oslo Road crossing and the First Street crossing are also quieted. You will have horn sounding in the city before they get to that going south. Yes.
And 12th Street.
Yeah, just for 16th Street. Yeah, no, it won't be sounding for 12th Street. It'll be sounding.
12th Street is not city.
Tammy, can I see the report?
12th Street is not city.
Oh, yeah, we'll be sounding for 12th Street. Oh, that's true. I forgot it. It's 12th and 8th, right? It will be sounding for 12th and 8th, but it'll be past the city by the time they start doing those. So it will be the last half mile of the city. They will be sounding going south. That's true. Unless the county makes those quiet zones.
That's what I was looking for. Number 3, when you look at that, with quiet zones, the train noise will be localized to within a short distance from blah, blah.
I think a
It's-
quiet
it's-
zone without the county joining in is
And
useless.
that's what we need to get somehow in this statement, because that number 3 is really not clear. What are we actually
Right. Well, we should
talking about?
encourage that maybe we with quiet zones.
Yes.
With quiet zones in the city, so we're talking here, they're really quiet it down totally within the city. You would have to have quiet zones for 12th Street, 8th Street, 4th Street.
You'd have to have quiet zones in the county.
Yeah.
Right. So,
And it'd be throughout the county.
And I'm not convinced that quiet zones are a good thing.
Understood.
Okay. I think this is a subtlety that it's going to be difficult to, with quiet zones, I didn't specify just within the city, but with quiet zones, we should probably encourage the county to establish quiet zones at least for those 3 intersections.
That should be in there in the
We can make
findings.
that a recommendation.
Okay.
That should be under
we'll take-
recommendations.
So you want to take 3
No,
out
leave-
of there
no, leave
and
it.
then do recommendations, or do you
No,
want?
with quiet zones, it's trains will be localized within a short distance from the track. But under recommendations, that we should, in order to maintain quiet zones within the city, we should encourage the county to establish quiet zones for the crossings at 12th, 8th, and 4th Streets.
There you go.
Okay.
Good.
And the other thing, Don, your concern about liability, if the city were to implement quiet zones and then there was an accident, then you certainly threw yourself right into the liability pile.
Well, no, then you're basically doing something that has been approved by the Federal Railroad Administration, and now you've got the federal government involved in a liability issue.
It's fine, you might
Because we're just implementing recommendations by the federal government that horn blowing is not required if you have these conditions posted.
That could include then the federal government in the lawsuit. But if you as a city implement quiet zones and there's an accident, then you can rest assured you will be included in the plaintiff column or in the defendant column.
I think the city would be included in the defendant column at any
That's
accident
fine.
that happens anywhere.
Okay.
The idea is, so people that are listening, is to lessen the liability
Right.
on the city. If
Right.
the city council elects to do the quiet zones, there's increased liability. That's what we were told. So we need to lessen that. And
If
it's
we wanna-
dollars, it's costs.
If we want to lessen the liability to the city, we can do that relatively easy. We can say, all aboard Florida, good luck, we hope you're successful, and don't ask us for any money, and put the trains through in a safe manner. And stay out of trying to run, whether it's a quiet zone or not. But I know I'm in the minority there, but
Well,
it is what it is.
I understand what you're saying, but going back to what we've heard from the general public, they want answers. A lot of folks said, hey, we'd like to see the information. We would like the quiet zone, so this will get answered. Now, it may come up at the city council meeting. They may decide, for the reasons that Mr. Hetty's citing, no, we're not doing quiet zones for these reasons. But that's up to the council when they have their legal experts give them their opinion. We're just making these humble recommendations to them from what we heard from the public. That's what they're looking for. What have we heard? Bring it to us. Let us know, and then we'll go from there.
Right. We're not saying that the city should spend any city money on creating quiet zones.
Nope.
We're saying that the quiet zone cost should come from the safety requirements put on all aboard Florida by the Federal Railroad Administration and by the state $10 million grant for the costs that may be incurred by local governments putting in quiet zones.
The state grant is our money, don't forget.
Yeah, but the
state doesn't have a magical money tree in Tallahassee from which they pluck dollars, and neither does the federal government. They can't give us anything they didn't steal from us first.
Well, I understand that, Brian. But the reason the state is doing that is because there is an economic benefit to the state as a whole for this project, and that's the reason that the state legislature has put that in. And we would be remiss to our local taxpayers if we didn't take advantage of that being available.
And you're absolutely right, because we all of us chip into that
Exactly.
pot. You know, it is our dollars that go into the pot, and that's what our people are telling us. Hey, we want to know what you're doing with this. It is going to impact us.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see any benefit to this. So what are you going to do to help us out?
Right.
That's
what
just
this all
how it
about.
is.
It's common sense. Any other comments, Brian?
Well, I was down to 3. Number 4.
Mm-hmm.
In number 4, it says, as a result of the EIS. The EIS isn't out. How can you possibly put something in there that says, as a result of the EIS, when nobody's seen the EIS?
It says, as a result of the federal may make recommendations to all aboard Florida requiring additional safety measures.
As a result of the EIS that you haven't seen yet?
Result of the. I didn't say the EIS has recommended this. It says, as a result, the EIS may recommend this.
Okay.
That's all it is. It doesn't say. It doesn't state it as a fact that they already have. Well, basically, they may. Well, if they do, we want that cost to be borne by all aboard Florida, and not by us.
Okay.
And with that being said, these are good points that we're raising here, because the EIS study will eventually come out.
Right.
And these are things that the council wants to take a look at, so the legal team can make some of these recommendations. Because don't forget, we can make comments.
Right.
And this is important that we have this information for them. Go ahead, Mr. Hetty.
Number 5, it says that there's concerns that need to be addressed by the EIS. The EIS has the outline, the blueprint for the EIS is pretty well already cast in concrete, and the feds know what they're going to address in the EIS. If we want to add something that we believe should be in the EIS, then we should go back to what some of us had said a long time ago, and that is that we need to have input before the EIS comes out. I think that telling them at this point what needs to be in EIS is
what this says
meaningless.
is, Brian, if it's not addressed in the EIS, it gives the basis to question the EIS. In other words, we need to look at the EIS and make sure these things are addressed. And if they're not, that's why I'm saying they should be addressed. So if they're not, then it gives us a basis for saying it's an inadequate EIS.
And
Number
with,
6.
go ahead. I'm sorry, Brian.
That's what that's for, because I understand what you're saying, and we don't have the EIS. We're not. Who knows when we'll get it? We thought we were going to get it in April, May, June. Who knows whether it'll get here in July or August? It probably. I'm hoping that it doesn't get here till September, because then I'll be back and be able to comment on it. But and I don't think I'll be able to read all 800 pages, on my laptop down in up in Rhode Island while I sit there listening to the train go by. Because I live near the tracks on the Acela.
Which side of the tracks?
Wrong side. No, the water side. So that's
And I'm not trying to be a smart ass here, but I have a question. Did the location of those tracks? I'm serious.
Yeah.
Did the location of those tracks have any impact on whether you bought that property?
No.
Thank you.
One quick thing, if I may, Mr. Hetty.
Yeah.
The EIS. Now, with the concerns that our city council will be raising, and the county also, the folks that will be looking at this, the feds, they're going to be looking at these comments, and they'll decide if the comment warrants them to do some further investigation, maybe some further safety measures. And that's the reasons we have to have these comments out. The EIS study is in the process of moving.
Right.
So us making, can you do the EIS study this way? No, that's not going to fly. But now the feds, they know there's a lot of concerns in these areas here, these 3-county area, with issues. So they're going to be looking at it. When they sit down and they see this, we have to be pretty clear what those pretty clear what the concerns are, so they see if they have merit. Because if you look at the study that was done in the South, there was a concern, and when they looked at it, they said, yes, you do have a concern, but we looked at it, you don't have a concern. That's how that went back to them.
Well, what happens is one of the people who experience in these matters, Mr. Gruber from Massachusetts,
yes,
he commented that the EIS process took over 2 years up there, basically because if significant concerns are raised by the public that question the completeness of the EIS as produced, and they may have to go back. And so that you get, basically you don't necessarily kill a project, but you may, based on the completeness of the EIS. And I think what we want to be concerned about is make sure that the EIS covers everything we're concerned about.
That's correct.
And if it doesn't, we make very clear that you don't want to go ahead until you get these concerns that were not addressed, get them addressed.
And those concerns have to be backed up with what we call the legal end of it to make your case to these people that are looking at it. All right. Mr. Hetty?
Number 6. Frank, here's one that I absolutely agree with without change. It says, the cost of implementation and ongoing maintenance by any additional safety measures recommended should be the responsibility of all aboard Florida. Hooray.
Hooray.
I like that one.
That's great.
That's kind of what I've been saying for a long time. You know, put your train in, have fun. I hope you make a lot of money and pay for it. Don't burden our already overburdened taxpayers. One way to increase, number 7, one way to increase safety would be to limit the speed. Now, we had testimony here today, and I haven't checked into whether it's accurate or not, but we had one gentleman that testified to us today that speed doesn't, and I have no idea whether that's right or wrong. I got to look into that one.
I understand. It says one way. But well, and we also had his recommendation that if the trains actually were crossing, that it increases, it decreases safety. If the trains are crossing at very high speed, they have a closure rate of 210 miles an hour, 220 miles an hour, then it would be more. And we are in the crossing zone, as we've been told.
Well, if we're in the
crossing, it would make much more sense. It would probably be even more of a concern if they're crossing, that the speed should be decreased as they, where the crossing zone is.
All right. With that being said, first of all, we've heard today the speed may not be a safety issue.
I disagree.
I disagree.
All right. Well, anyway,
I think it
doesn't
is.
sound right to me, but that's the testimony.
But that's what we heard today. Okay, not looking for us.
Well, he also said that if the trains are crossing, it may be an issue.
It may be an issue, right? What people are looking for here in this community, we heard it over and over again. A train going through our community at 110 or maybe faster is going to have an impact, and people are concerned with that. So if we could maybe tweak out this.
We're recommending that to go no more than 60 miles an hour. We're recommending.
I think what the people in this community are looking for is for us to do something to stop all aboard Florida, and I think that's wrong.
We're not going to do that. That's on the recommendations, Ken, is where I'm saying that the city should work toward reducing the speed of the trains within the city to a maximum of 60 miles an hour. That's item 4. That's the recommendation.
But what I wanted to get in there is we talk about safety. It's more than a safety issue, too, with the speed. It is going to have an adverse effect. But some of the business owners brought it up, as far as a train going through very fast. They're concerned, what it's going to do to their businesses as far as an impact.
And as I recall, vibration, on the effect upon vibration upon buildings in the area.
These trains are very light, and the vibration generated is minimal compared to a freight. They have much more vibrations coming from the freight trains right now.
I'm just telling you what a concern was.
I know the concern.
But Don, I think you're right. I think it's a concern that someone raised who doesn't want the railroad to come through. But I think that the reality is that passenger rail going through is not going to have anywhere near the kind of vibration that.
Well, I don't think we have to answer every single concern that any individual raises. But if the concerns don't make any sense.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think we should.
I don't think we have to.
Well, is it the consensus of this commission that the trains not go through at an excessive speed, whatever that excessive speed may be?
I just picked 60 miles an hour because the freights are going a little bit slower than that. 60 seems a doable number for all aboard Florida. I don't know where their position would be on it, but right now. They're talking 79 miles an hour going through here. And I think 60 is something that's going to slow them down that much. We did hear also, by the way, if we say urban areas, that 98% of the part of Indian River County is considered urban by the FRA. in terms of the density of population, because they include the population on the island as well as on the mainland.
But what did the federal guidelines say in terms of urban?
I don't know what they say. All I'm saying is that we need to take a position. I think that we object to the train going through the city at 110 miles an hour, and I just picked a number as one that is, may or may not be achievable, but it's something we should be asking for. That's all
I think they ought to stay within existing speed limits.
That's 79 miles an hour.
That's 79 miles an hour, and you did the math. I think that accomplishes their goal of under 3 hours.
I'm not worried about their 3 hours.
No, I'm worried about their 3 hours.
I'm not worried about the 3 hours either. I'm just saying that accomplishes the
I'm
goal.
worried about force of impact. That's what I'm worried about.
Your train hits you at 79 miles an hour, or 30 miles an hour, or 110 miles an hour. It's just a matter of how many pieces you're going to have to bury.
Well, as you double the speed, you quadruple the impact.
Part of the problem is perception. If somebody is near the track and looks down the track, and there's something coming at 110 miles an hour, a train looks kind of stationary, looking down the track at a train. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And if your expectation is it's going about as fast as a car on a highway at 60 miles an hour, get some idea how far that's going to come to you. If 110 miles an hour, you are going to be real surprised how fast that train gets on you. And that's one reason why I thought for an area where pedestrians are walking across the tracks, even though you have a guardrail go down, the guy looks down, I can make it, right? The train's coming 110 miles an hour. You have more. We have a lot of we have a lot of crosswalks in our city that go across these train tracks. And individuals can go around, and very easily. And I'm just concerned that the perception of a person looking at a train down the track, and that train's traveling 110 miles an hour, is not going to be the same as if the train's going at 60 miles an hour. He's going to have the perception is going to be more accurate about how long it's going to take for that train to get there. That's why I said that.
To me, it comes down to reaction time.
Right.
If you're traveling at 60 miles an hour, the reaction time is 1. 110, you have a far shorter reaction time.
Right.
I'm interested in reaction time in this regard.
Yeah.
And so I could buy the 60.
And the train hits a pedestrian at 110 miles an hour, the turkey buzzers are going to get to him before Tommy Lowther.
Well, we're making the case here. Remember, as this goes through the legal channels, you say the train, the community feels it's going too fast through their community. Well, that's nice. Give us some reasons of why you think it's going too fast through your community. Now that you've given us the reasons, back it up with the legal.
Well, I'll give you one reason.
So you can mitigate to slow it down.
I'll give you one reason. There's a senior citizen sitting at this chair.
There you go.
And my reaction time is not that of a 30-year-old. Okay?
Right.
I need more time to process what's happening. I need reaction time. And there are people a lot older than me. And the key term is reaction time in this brain.
I like that reaction time for our seniors and the reaction time for our youth. Our youth figure they're real fast. We have crossings, a few crossings here one within our city and a few in the county. We have school children. And school children, you know how school children are. And our vice chair made some very good comments. You look down the track, I can make it. And these are children. So now we can start building the case, okay, it should be slowed down because of our community. We have residents around these tracks. We have businesses around these tracks. We have schools that are close by. It's not out in the wide open.
Like me.
Right, you have senior citizens like Mr. Pezzicelli.
We have guys crossing the tracks in wheelchairs, in motorized wheelchairs. Right. And you can understand there's people that or walkers. I've seen people crossing the tracks with walkers. And so we have an elderly community. And speed of the train to me is a significant thing, and I think we can make that case. I don't think we have to go through a whole detailed explanation here, but if anybody has questions, we got plenty of answers.
But now what we're doing, too, with this dialogue, we're getting pieces on the record that maybe others won't think about. You just said some key things here.
Right.
Getting across the tracks with a walker, getting across the tracks in a motorized wheelchair.
Right.
Those are concerns. We have a number of crossings in this county and city that people use. Now, when you put that together and people at the federal level look at it, they're going to say, okay, something needs to be done there. Remember, we were told from the get-go this was a very new concept. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the rules and regulations that are on the books, some of them are quite old. So some new rules and regulations may need to be put into place to mitigate some of these issues.
Well,
I don't think anyone on this commission is trying to stop All Aboard Florida. What we're trying to do is it's going to impact our community because of the locations of the tracks. So how are we going to make that case?
Yeah, in nowhere did we say we're opposed to All Aboard Florida. All we're doing is saying that these are the concerns we have about how we in the city protect ourselves. That's all this is all
and
about.
these are not our personal concerns. This is stuff that, and I want to keep putting this on the record. I know you all know this. This is what we've been hearing from our community. I know myself and others on this board have attended other community meetings, and the concerns are similar throughout the three-county area.
Could we get a consensus on this at least?
I think we're okay.
I think
so
we're
far.
pretty good.
Brian?
I don't think our job is to mirror back to the city council what we've heard. I think our responsibility is to tell the city council what we believe is real, what we believe they should be doing. And I don't think it's our job to say we're going to cover every single comment that everybody's had.
And I don't think the city council should be finding ways to limit the speed.
You don't think they should be?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I do.
I think that we have a speed limit that
We have three of us to do, so,
79.
yeah.
I think that the city should oppose increases in existing speed limits, but limit their speeds. I'm not sure city council
When you say
should be doing
speeds,
that.
we're not talking right now. The freight trains go through at the speeds they do.
I
think
don't. The
top
freight
is
train. This
79.
is
No, they go through about 40 or 50 miles an
40
hour.
or 50.
That's all they
The
go.
high-speed train, we were told, is going through 110. That's what we're talking about.
110 concerns me. It exceeds the speed limit.
Well, is it possible, I mean, with all deference to
Our
to
speed limit
Brian?
in that arena is 40 miles an hour. I'm letting them go over 20 miles an hour above that.
Okay.
Could we put it to a vote, and whatever happens, happens? We're not
All
going
right,
to
well,
be
we've got-
unanimous on
all right,
everything.
You don't have any more suggestions for it?
No, I think 60
Brian,
is
do you have
reasonable,
any-
and the council
Yeah,
can change it.
Brian, are you
I'm down to number 8. Number 8, I think we talked about before, and my understanding is correct. We're gonna get rid of the word negatively, so the property values are going to be impacted. But we're not going to say they're going to be negative.
Oh, we are. We're going to
we
say
are.
this. We're
We
going to
said-
say this.
okay.
Here's the change we made.
Yeah,
Brian.
let's go to number 9.
Maybe.
Some impact. We said this. Some impact on property values already exists because the railroad has been here for 100 years. Although, in all probability, there will be some negative impact on property values in proximity to the tracks.
Okay,
Yes.
that's fine.
Okay.
And you know, the commission's going to put that, but I stand by what I said. I think that
Okay.
negative is the wrong word to use. Anyway, All Aboard Florida, this is now number 9. All Aboard Florida project will provide no direct benefits to the city. I just think that's wrong.
Or what direct benefits do you think it's going to provide?
What benefits do I think?
What direct benefits will All Aboard Florida provide in this particular project?
Well, you know, if it reduces traffic, I drive vets to the Veterans Hospital in West Palm Beach every day of the week. If it reduces the traffic on the turnpike by this railroad, it's going to have a very positive impact on my life.
In your life, but that doesn't have any impact on the city because I-95
Well, I'm a
doesn't go through the city.
resident,
I-95 doesn't go through the city.
and it has a well.
How about if we say?
That's fine.
How about if we say at this time?
You put in whatever you want. I'm just on the record.
No,
that
we don't have to
I
do
think
that.
it's
He's not gonna vote for it
incorrect to
anyway.
say that it will have no direct benefits. I don't
Okay.
think that's accurate.
All right.
Whatever. The
Okay.
possibility of a train stopping at Vero Beach is remote at best. Certainly, All Aboard Florida is telling us that that's not going to happen. I can tell you that there's a fair number of people that have come up to me and said they're just telling you that they're really going to stop here, and then what's going to happen is we're going to have nothing but high rises. Because all of those people in Miami are going to jump on the train and they're going to come up and they're going to get off in Vero Beach. And we're going to need to build high rises downtown just to house them.
Yeah.
So,
That's why I say it has its own issues, but it's
It does
not,
have its own
not something
issues.
it's not something that we are commenting on because it's not part of the project.
but I don't know why, as a commission, we're saying that the possibility of the train is remote at best. If you want to say the possibility has its own of stopping has its own issues.
Well, because
That's
it is remote at this particular
Okay,
time.
that's
Remote in
fine.
time, anyway.
That's fine.
It's according to their business model. They ran the business model. They were very clear when they
Where's that
first
business
stopped
model?
in.
Show that to me, would
It's 3 hours and they name the stops, and there's reasons for that. Mm-hmm. And also in my findings, and everybody knows this, it's on the site. The stations that they're going to have will have to be a little bit larger than what people think. There are going to be some security issues there. It's not an open station. They're going to have to be manned. So it's a different setup. And that's one of the reasons, too, why they pick the places where they have the stops, because of the amount of people. Right now, there's no plans for any stops here in Vero Beach.
Or anywhere other than those 3 stops. That's true.
Right.
Okay.
And that's just how it is.
That's how it is.
Number 10, we already beat up on.
11.
That's the for Frank's. That was the loan one in the 35 years and the interest rate. Number 11 says it is recognized that the noise of the proposed trains and train horns, as well as the impacts on local traffic and crossings, will carry across city limits, impacting the local quality of life. Positively or negatively?
I could take that one out. I have no. To me, that was something Penny added that was fine, but to me, it's not a it's not a big deal, because
I'm just wondering what.
I don't know why it's there either.
Yeah, what does that mean?
No problem.
Positive or negative? All right. Next
the sentence says it is recognized that the noise of the proposed trains and train horns, as well as the impacts on local traffic and crossings, will carry across city limits, impacting the local quality of life. It's commenting that some of the impacts will be outside the city.
Right.
And I don't know why we would be commenting on something outside the city. Penny put it in because she's the county Chamber of Commerce, so she's concerned about the whole county. I can understand why she wants. I don't feel strongly one way or the other about that. If you want it out, I'll take it out.
Oh, that's not what I said.
If you want it in, I don't know how clear it is.
I said you're making a statement that's going to affect the quality of life. I just asked a question. Is it going to affect it negatively or positively?
I have no idea.
Well, we're leaving that up to the city council to decide.
Correct. I think it's
fine.
Okay.
You want to take it out? We can take it out.
I didn't say take it out.
I think it's okay to leave in there. I've had many comments and people coming to me. They are concerned with the noise.
We've had it both ways.
Council can do as they please.
Can do as they please.
At their pleasure.
And it's not a recommendation. It's a finding anyway.
That's correct.
Recommendation. Mm-hmm. Frank, you don't have a copy, so I'll read the whole thing. The areas where the city can mitigate the negative impact on Old Board, Florida are limited. The city can oppose the project and recommend that it be relocated to the I-95 corridor. I didn't know the I-95 corridor was even a choice.
They're talking about moving it west. Either you moving it west to the CSX lines, but if you move the CSX lines, you can't accomplish the safety of elevating the train as it goes over intersections. If you put it on the I-95 corridor, you minimize the number of intersections, and you can elevate it like they're doing what they're building to go between Orlando and Cocoa is they're elevating the train over the all the intersections so that there are going to be no crossing. There'll be no road crossings on that stretch. You cannot. They're basically saying we cannot elevate freight. So if you wanted to mitigate to have no grade crossings, which I'd love to see, you would do it on the I-95 corridor because you'd minimize the number of crossings you'd have, and you would be able to, and you make it just for passenger, not just for not passenger and freight. Unfortunately, they don't own the property. They would have to get a lease from the federal government because that's a federal right of way. I don't know how the hell that would work, but it would be, if money is no object, that would be the best solution. Okay.
But, yeah. Okay. Well, that's fine, but
it ain't going to happen. But
that's fine.
I didn't say it was going to happen. I said that would be nice, but
putting it on the record that I wouldn't be in favor of telling the city to oppose the project and recommend that it be located on the I-95 corridor. However, the likelihood of that happening is low. As the only infrastructure, which is what you just said, the city needs to prepare now to deal with the negative impact of the proposed train project.
I can solve that problem.
Go ahead, please.
Use the word any. Any negative
deal with
impact.
Any impact. That's fine.
Any
with
negative.
Any instead of the? Okay.
With any impact. That's fine. That's cool.
That's great.
Take out that negative word. That works for me.
No, with any negative impact. Any impact.
Any impact.
Any negative impact.
You keep saying negative, and Frank and I keep saying
we don't have
negative out of there.
We don't have to deal with positive impacts. We can just enjoy them. The only impacts we have to deal with are negative impacts, Brian.
That's fine. stated my case. Then number 1 under that says the City of Vero Beach should prepare to establish a quiet zone for each city crossing, beginning at Aviation and going down to include 16th Street, which is a county crossing. Mm-hmm. It's a city. It's located within the city limits, but 16th Street is a county crossing, and I would just a big fat no on establishing those quiet zones. But anyway, that's what I think.
That's where we could put in the comment, by the way, of where the county, we could say, and also recommend that and the city should encourage the county for those. With that, we can move 9 up to a subset of that.
I agree.
Okay.
City number 2, Frank, says the city should support all safety measures recommended as a result of the EIS. How can I possibly say that I should recommend something when I don't have a clue what it is? There is no EIS. How can I say that I'm in favor of recommending something that's in a document that I haven't seen? So I certainly couldn't be in favor of that one either. The city should apply, number 3, the city should apply funds to cover the quiet zones, quiet zone cost that may be available from the $10 million state appropriation. Once again, I wish all aboard Florida all success. I hope that they're wildly successful when and if their train goes through, but I'm not about to support funds for quiet zones or anything else. I think that all aboard Florida should pay the cost of whatever they need to run the train and make it safe.
Mm-hmm. Brian?
Yes, sir.
I agree with that last sentence, but with the top part of that, I would perhaps add to try and, if we have to go for some money, not only go to the state, but federal sources for money.
Well, it's all our money.
No, I understand that. But I'm saying, I like the second part of yours, but I think the word federal or state funds should be sought if they do not pay.
Right, and with what Mr. Pezzicelli is saying there, where there's a number there, number 3, 10 million state appropriation. That 10 million, I think when they were appropriating it, it's more for the cities to the south. So how about if we just take the number out, use what Mr. Pezzicelli is saying, state and federal.
All right, state and federal.
Right.
State and federal funds.
Let's just take the number out.
Yeah, okay. Yep. From state and federal funds.
Yeah, state and federal funds, yes.
Federal and state, either one.
Yeah, and that covers both.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And state appropriations.
And
yes.
Number 4, the city should work towards reducing the speed of trains within the city limits to a maximum of 60. This will improve safety. I don't know whether it does or not. I'm wondering now. This will improve safety and not increase significantly any traffic disruption. I think 60 versus 100 isn't going to have a huge, significant impact on the traffic.
Well, if number 4,
whether it will
or not,
this will improve safety.
Why are we addressing it twice?
We already talked about it.
We already talked about it once. Why are we addressing it twice?
I'm just going down through the list.
That's right.
Maybe it should be expunged.
No, I think it's got to be in there.
I do too, for the following reasons, or just maybe one of them. It gives a starting point as this goes through to do the reduction of the speed. People need to be taking a look at it. There's a number in here of 60. City Council with their legal team, they could tweak that out. At least that's a starting point. That's what I'm looking for. It's a starting point to reduce the speed.
But my point is that we already addressed it.
That was a finding. This is a recommendation.
Okay. Fine.
There's a difference between findings and recommendations. You have all these findings, but then you say, only really recommending these things out of those.
When we find something, we want to recommend
more.
it.
We could always find more, but we're trying to get a report. I like to keep the reports under 2 pages so that they can really absorb it. Right now, the city council has a pile of paper this high, and I guarantee that none of them have read it.
Some
Not all
of them
of it.
have read it.
Well, not
Our
all
city
of it.
manager has
has.
read a lot.
Who?
But you're right. Our city manager.
I'll bet you 100 to 1 odds, Don, that you're absolutely correct. I'll give you 100 to 1 odds on that.
Our
What
city
else do we
council,
have there, folks? I'm getting very hungry.
Well, we're almost out of here.
I'm
We only
down
got
to
3
4.
more points.
There's only 2 left,
There's
Frank.
only 2 more points left.
Go,
Two more
Mr.
points.
Hetty.
2
Go,
more
Mr.
points.
Hetty.
Go ahead.
We're waiting. You're under pressure.
I'm under no pressure. I give pressure. I don't. Anyway, the city should work. The city should request that the FRI ensure that any required safety measures will be maintained by All Aboard Florida at their expense in perpetuity as a requirement of the loan. Well, this whole safety issue, every time it comes up and people talk to me, I don't think for half a second that All Aboard Florida is going to spend $1 billion and borrow another $1.5 billion on a train, and that they're going to put in any way that they think is unsafe. An accident is not going to help them. An accident pretty well is going to end them. So I just find it hard to believe that All Aboard Florida is not going to do things that are pretty well going to secure the safety of their investment.
That's true, but if it's right now under current law, if they do an upgrade on a road crossing, it'll be the financial responsibility of the city to pay for that.
That's correct.
And that's what we're trying to change.
That's what
if you want to maintain that it will be the city's responsibility to pay for this, then that's fine.
I think All Aboard Florida should pay for the cost of the safety equipment, period.
I think
Period. That's what this.
that was
that's
the driving
what it
point.
It's the
I
ongoing.
believe.
It's the ongoing maintenance of it that we're
Yes.
really stressing here. Because we have to pay. The city has to pay the ongoing maintenance of any of these safety issues on the
And I
crossing.
continue to disagree with the city taxpayers being burdened with the cost of maintaining their equipment.
I agree with that. That's why we're
But-
trying to say we shouldn't be burdened with that.
Number 6, the city should continue to work with Indian River County Planning Agency and the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Agency and all other local government entities along the route to develop a unified voice and a consistent recommendations in response to the EIS. I think that the city of Vero Beach probably has different concerns than the other cities along the route. So for us to join in on a unified voice and be consistent with recommendations to areas that have different needs and different concerns, and it just seems to me, why?
Because the reason, Brian, I put that in there is of the 340 or whatever crossings, we have 7. And if we can be stressed and agreed to by all the other local governments and the county governments and planning, it strengthens our voice. And if we can lend our voice to support them in their concerns, it strengthens their voice, and that's why that recommendation is
I would
there.
add one thing to that. Whenever I go to a different state or locality, I always buy a local newspaper because I want to see what issues they have, what answers they have, because they may relate to us someday. So it's a question to bring more information in from any source you can to open up your mind, see the problem, and solve the problem. And maybe they already have, but we're not smart enough to have thought of it. That's my thinking.
The last thing that I have to say, Don, and this is kind of in response to your comment about whether or not they read the stack, and I think your estimate on the pile is
I was
probably,
low. I was
I
low.
think you're a little shy. You're being very conservative. I know this is a conservative county, but I would like to bet that it's a lot higher. And when you do start to read all of those documents, and I've had, I read in the Palm Beach Post, as if the Palm Beach Post is the Bible and it's absolutely accurate. And, the Palm Beach Post article is as good as the reporter who wrote it. And depending on his particular perspective. But anyway, on December something or other, on December the 9th, 2013, last year, after being appointed to this commission, I had some recommendations, some observations that are summed up in 2 sentences, and I'll read both of them. Most city taxpayers have had enough. The commission should be careful not in any way impede the railroad. It hasn't changed my mind one bit. Or cost taxpayers any money spent because of the railroad changes. This is a railroad project. Let them provide everything for themselves without taxpayer contribution. My advice, unless someone proves me wrong, is to welcome the railroad to our city, but provide a cold shoulder to any request for taxpayer participation. That's basically the only thing after all of these meetings, and after all of the presentation, you talk about what the majority of the people say. I can tell you that the majority of the people that come into this room and present may or may not represent what the majority viewpoint is. Certainly, the majority of the people that have come before us have spoken very negatively about this project. No question about that. I'm not convinced at all that if you really did go out and survey the 16,000 people that live in the city, I'm not at all convinced that it would in any way look like what we've heard at this public podium. But I do think that you could probably get a very high percentage that would agree that we probably shouldn't be stepping on property rights. We probably shouldn't be trying to get in the way of corporate entities that are spending their own money. And I think that we'd probably get a very high percentage that would agree this shouldn't cost us anything.
Well, I think that's what our recommendations are. As we have put them together, I would make the motion that we adopt this as our report to the City Council at their next meeting. And I need a second for that.
I would like to second it since I'm an alternate and I can vote for the first time. I second it.
Thank you, Mr. Pizzutelli.
3-1.
All right, under discussion, since we have a motion on the table where they have it second, in our discussions, we talked about the summary, we talked about the findings, we talked about the recommendations, and that's what we're going to be voting on to package this and present it to City Council. And again, to do the presentation to the City Council, I will be doing that. And the date of that, again, is June 17, 2014. Time is 6 o'clock. And if any commission member wants to be there to offer their thoughts after I do the presentation, please do so. Okay, Ms. Vaught, call the roll.
Mr. Pizzutelli?
Yes.
Mr. Hetty?
No.
Mr. Coteau?
Yes.
Chairman Daig?
Yes.
I make a
Motion passes.
So moved.
Wait, before we do that motion, I have to ask Mr. Hetty if it's okay to put your presentation onto the next meeting?
Whatever.
Thank you, sir. We're adjourned. Thank you.